My number one question I want to ask for anyone that's watching this video is, do you feel as though you are inconsistent or getting derailed from reaching or exceeding or excelling at your fitness and wellness goals? Then if so, this video is for you.
So the big question is this: how were two women who didn't cheat and purchase a gym franchise model, how were they able to spread their mission and purpose by empowering and transforming hundreds of women's lives through fitness, nutrition, mindset, and accountability with a micro gym business model of women only? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. We are Lady Strong Fitness.
First and foremost, before we even begin, you need to be able to admit that you do have an issue. A lot of people are on the defense mode, and the first thing they want to do is to sweep whatever issue they may have under the rug and continue to just move forward and get the same results that they're always used to getting. So first and foremost is admitting, like, yes, I have not excelled at my goals, and admit that you have derailed from even exceeding those goals. So once you do admit that you have some sort of a problem, then that would be the next step in the right direction. And it's no different than admitting that you have some sort of addiction as far as maybe drugs or alcohol. It's really hard to exceed and become sober when you don't admit that you have a problem. And it's no different when it comes to your own wellness and fitness journey, okay? So now that you have admitted that you are not excelling at your goals, the next phase would be to figure out why you are always derailing, okay? So the reason why you are derailing from hitting your goals is because I like to call it what's shiny toy syndrome. Shiny toy syndrome is almost like a child when they see something new, they want to go after it, right? And they get off of track of what they were doing. So if you want to relate this to yourself, this might be fad diets. You might be trying something, you're like, oh, it's not working for me. And then you see keto and you're like, oh, keto is it. I want to do keto. Or maybe it's this new workout program. And it's like, oh, this workout isn't working, so I'm going to go do that. When in theory, it has nothing to do with any of the fads that are out there, and it has everything to do with you. Because if you have the same habits, those habits are going to carry over to whatever trend that you are trying to chase after. So don't think that that new fad is going to fix your problem. Your problem is the habits that you have created. Okay, so again, I can't necessarily try to quit smoking and wear the patch or chew the gum, but yet I'm still finding myself smoking more, if not the same as what I did when I said I was going to stop or cut back. Okay, so what I want you to do is to stick to the basics. And I speak from experience. For the last 2 decades of me being in this industry, I haven't changed anything drastically from my starting point till now. And I admit that I have tried things, but through trial and error, I find that it just does not work for me, and a lot of those things are not sustainable. I hear much success with people that have tried keto, and they've lost tremendous amount of weight, but as soon as they stop, they gain all the weight back. A lot of the side effects come back. They're super lethargic or low energy or whatever it is, right? So again, a lot of these things are not sustainable. It might be even a new fitness program, whatever it is. If it doesn't suit you and you try something else and you're not getting the results, you'll later come to realize that it wasn't necessarily the program that did not work, and it was actually you that are not creating those new habits. So I've always said this time after time, is that we have to reprogram and reframe our thought process and to think differently and not do the same things that we're accustomed to doing. Now, I don't necessarily advise that whatever you do should be cut completely cold turkey, okay? I always use the analogy, if you want to cut back on your weakness when it comes to eating, if it's carbs or sugars or whatever it is to make small adjustments and modifications. Okay, so instead of like eating the entire bag of chips while you're Netflix and chilling, you should maybe portion your sizes and not necessarily take the whole bag and only take, a handful, or maybe measure it, or but it's a lot better than just sitting there. Before you know it, and you look at the bag and it's empty and you're like, oh shit, what did I do? And then you have some sort of remorse or guilty conscience. So again, it's like, don't set yourself up for failure. And if so, again, plan on failing. I always say, if you don't plan ahead of time, you will end up failing. So, and it's no different from a lot of the women who came off of this macro shred challenge with counting their macros. It's planning their meals ahead of time instead of waiting till the end of the night. They haven't ate anything and they're trying to get all this food in, and before they know it, they're overeating and they're not necessarily hitting their targets and goals. Okay. So, the next thing I want to talk about is just food in general. Again, because if you're trying, let's say, a new trend or a new exercise or a new exercise program, if you still have those same eating habits and carrying those same habits like I spoke of to this new trend or this new fad, you're not going to get those results. So when I think of eating, I don't think of eating as the D word. I hate the D word. Diet. Again, diets aren't sustainable. It's not something that you can live off of for the rest of your life. I like to call it well-balanced meal. As long as when you're sitting down, you have all three macronutrients in front of you, which is your proteins, carbs, and fats, and they're well-balanced, right? You don't have more carbs than fats or more fats than carbs, or no protein. It's well-balanced. And it doesn't have to be just salads and chicken, right? Preferably I would go crazy if I had to eat salads and chicken for the rest of my life. But again, is being able to figure out what type of values is in that food that you're consuming before you eat it, right? And once you know that, okay, got it. There's XYZ protein, got it, okay. For people who are just starting out in their journey, and I had to think about this for a second, it might come to be overwhelming, but once you're accustomed to doing it and you do it consistently, for me, I don't even have to count macros anymore. I can pick up something and I can tell you exactly the amount of macronutrients that's in that form of food that I'm consuming. And again, it's because I've been doing it for so long and counting macros that I don't have to do it anymore. And that's our whole goal and objective with you ladies, is that you can get to that point. But you have to start somewhere and you have to stay consistent. And not just consistency with your food, it's consistency with your workouts. It's like the 80-20 rule. You can't out-exercise a bad diet. You do need to exercise. But last but not least, when it comes to exercising, I know we have our favorites when it comes to particular exercises, if it's cardio or if it's strength training. And again, you can't necessarily choose one versus the other and have a favorite. You can have a favorite, but you can't always do that favorite. You also have to work on those weaknesses. If you find yourself that you're not necessarily strong in a particular area, I always say turn that weakness into a strength. Try to pick up heavier weights. Try to do things that will help you perform better outside of class. If it's working on your mobility and flexibility, if your hips are tight, make sure we're stretching, taking advantage of the yoga class or the recovery room. There's so many resources that are readily available for you at Lady Strong. All you have to do is take advantage of it. It's literally in the palm of your hand. And it's what do you decide to do with it, right? Do you just ignore it, or do you decide to do something about it? So again, I just want to wrap things up here. It's all up to you on what you decide to do, how your mentality is. Again, if you have this mentality that, I just can't do it, or, oh, why me? And I always said, again, don't feel sorry for yourself, right? Make a gesture in your head to where you tell yourself, instead of why me, okay, I got this, try me, right? Again, reframing, repositioning, and changing your thought process. Be consistent, stick to the basics and fundamentals. You don't have to get fancy with it. You don't have to necessarily have that shiny toy syndrome and go to the next best thing in your eyes is what you think is the next best thing. If you just stick to the basics, stick to the fundamentals, have a well-balanced meal, stay consistent, have a positive mindset, I promise you, you will get so much further ahead in your fitness and wellness journey than you can possibly imagine. And last but not least, patience is a virtue. I know it sounds so monotonous and we say it all the time, like just be patient, trust the process. But if you actually do that, you'd be surprised. Even if you lose 1 pound per week, that's 4 pounds per month. And over the course of like 6 months, that's like 6, 12, 18, 24 pounds, right? And if you do the math on that, if you do 24 times 2, that's 48 pounds, right? So it's like, you need to be able to just celebrate those milestones and not think about the end goal. Because then once you're there, then what, right? Then what do you do next? So it's like really enjoy the journey, both the good and the bad. Nothing's perfect. It's going to be a roller coaster with anything that we do, as you very well know. But we just need a reminder. So with this being said, ladies, I hope this gave you a little bit of insight. Don't be so caught up on that shiny toy syndrome. Well-balanced meals, not the D word, hate the diet, stick to the basics and fundamentals, and reposition your mindset. So with that being said, have a blessed day, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Lady Strong Fitcast. Take care. Bye.
Thanks for joining us today. If you like this episode, subscribe to our YouTube channel or find our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or whatever your favorite place is to listen to podcasts. And if you really liked this episode, please leave a review for us on iTunes. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.